Now, I have the OnePlus 2. The 3T is an incremental upgrade, and this is the OnePlus 5. About a month ago, I dropped my OnePlus 6 review. This is the OnePlus 9 Pro. The OnePlus 10T and the OnePlus 11 do look similar. Man, I really don't want to make this video. You know, before I had this YouTube channel, before I had this studio, before you were most likely here, I reviewed the OnePlus One, and to even get one, I had to put an invite in from someone who already had it. And that was the whole thing. You couldn't just walk into a store and buy it. You had to be part of a community. And when I finally got that invite, I'm not exaggerating, it felt like Christmas morning. Here was a phone made by a company who actually loved technology, not a boardroom decision, not a carrier deal, a phone built by fans and for fans. And I was hooked day one. I was there for the Smash Your Phone campaign. I was there for the backlash that followed. I was there for every era of this brand. You know, I built real relationships with people on the OnePlus team over the years, and now I'm here at the end. And I'm looking down at my table at some of my favorite OnePlus phones, and I'm looking at all the different innovations they've made, and my favorite foldable phone with the OnePlus Open. And then we had the Apex edition of the OnePlus Open with this VIP switch on the side. I mean, things that were very unique to OnePlus. So let's talk about what happened, just what we know, what does it mean, and I guess what comes next. Back in January, when reports first surfaced about OnePlus shutting down, the India CEO went on record and said the company was operating as usual. A pretty standard PR move. Deny the rumors, reassure the fans, and move on. Then a month later, he resigned and returned to China. And suddenly that denial felt very different. Around the same time, a source confirmed to 9to5 Google that OnePlus will cease operations in certain regions, including vast portions of Europe, potentially as soon as April 2026. Selected staff have already been informed, with some receiving severance packages. That's not someday, that is literally a few weeks from now. OnePlus has about 10 employees in North America and a similar headcount in Europe. The company has already laid off its R&D teams in India and had been asking key people across regions to transition to OPPO or Realme if they wanted to stay employed. When you're handing out severance packages, that's not a rumor anymore. That's a game plan. But here's the thing. If you've been paying attention, none of this is actually shocking. OnePlus was founded in December of 2013 by Pete Lau and Carl Pei. Their whole pitch was simple. Flagship specs, fair price, built with the community, never settle. That energy, that identity was largely carried by Carl. He was the face, the hype guy, the one who actually seemed to care about the community. He was actually in the forums replying back to fans directly. October 2020, he left OnePlus to start nothing. And the reason matters here. He said he wanted to take a swing at changing the world without the constraints of a larger organization deciding and dictating what to do. That's not just a resignation statement. That's a warning sign and foreshadowing what's to come. By 2020, the lines between OnePlus and OPPO has already started to blur. Shared supply chains, shared R&D, and eventually the merging of Oxygen OS and Color OS into the same code base. And Oxygen OS was the soul of OnePlus. It was the clean Android. There was no bloat, fast updates, and it was like CyanogenMod reincarnated when back in the day you could install ROMs on your phone and really customize your experience. The reason I started my YouTube channel. When that started merging with Color OS, the community noticed and started to leave. Now let's look at the actual business side of this because the numbers are brutal. In India, which is OnePlus' most important market outside of China, OnePlus lost over 30% of the market share year over year in 2025. Their latest numbers in India sits at just 2.4%. That's not a dip, that is a collapse. Global shipments fell more than 20% in 2024, dropping from roughly 17 million units to somewhere between 13 and 14 million. And you can make a great phone and still lose because the smartphone market doesn't care about legacy. It cares about shelf space, carrier deals, brand awareness, and ecosystem lock-in. OnePlus never cracked carriers the way Samsung did. They definitely did try. You could buy a OnePlus phone at T-Mobile, I believe. They never built an ecosystem the way Apple did. And when phones started to feel like OPPO with different logos, the fans who loved, who hyped the original OnePlus story had less reason to stay. Every video I talked about the price of OnePlus phones and how they're great phones, but the main thing about flagship killer ended up being the flagship. And one of the quotes that I love the most is that if you live to be the hero so long, you'll end up being the villain. But here's where it gets really interesting, because this isn't just about OnePlus failing, it's about what's replacing it. Pete Lau, who is now the chief product officer across OPPO, OnePlus, and other sub-brands, just announced the global launch of the OPPO Find X9 Ultra, the first time that an Ultra model from OPPO launches globally. And the timing is hard to ignore. OnePlus is reportedly exiting global markets, and simultaneously, OPPO is going global with their premier flagship for the first time ever. OPPO is moving premium and going global. OnePlus is being pulled back and going budget. Those are not parallel strategies. One is replacing another. Pete Lau, the co-founder of OnePlus, is now the guy pushing OPPO globally. So it's not like the people who built OnePlus abandoned ship. They just moved ships. They decided the OnePlus brand had run its course, and OPPO is the vehicle going forward. Realme handles budget online, OPPO goes premium. And OnePlus gets caught in the middle with nowhere to go, in the middle of the ocean. As far as existing users, OnePlus has said after-sales support, software updates, and consumer rights are fully guaranteed. We'll have to hold them to that. Product launches are still in the pipeline, but many are unlikely to release outside of China. So if you were waiting for the OnePlus 16 or the Open 2 in the US or Europe, it's probably not coming. And this one stings. As someone who was there from the very beginning with OnePlus, OnePlus reminded the industry that you could build a premium phone without the premium tax. They made Samsung and Apple users switch. They made a lot of people in the industry demand more of their phones. The community invite system, the actual back and forth with real fans, that was real. I know because I was there. I was on the forums. But the moment OPPO absorbed the DNA, the brand started hollowing out. Carl Pei saw it first and left. The fans felt it next. The marketing numbers confirmed it. And now the leadership is walking out the door. It's not a dramatic crash. It's more like a slow fade. And those sometimes are sadder. The people I built relationships with at OnePlus, a lot of them are gone now too. And that's the part nobody really begins to talk about. It's not just a brand going away. It's people, it's culture. It's a moment in smartphone history that genuinely mattered. If OPPO's global push with the Find X9 Ultra delivers, I'll definitely cover it. OPPO, holla at your boy. I would like to cover it. But it won't carry that same story for me. And that story was half the reason people cared about OnePlus in the first place. OnePlus, I feel honored to tell your story, but sadly, I think your time is gone. Kevin the Tech Ninja, thanks for watching.